Hi everyone and welcome to the Worhammer Podcast. We're your hosts, Jack
and Dan.
Today we're going to be talking about the latest, the Tale of Two tournaments that we've just been to?
Yeah, we just been to the Northeast Open GT, which is our local GT. It was a Tale of Two tournaments because we had, we went to the same event, very different experiences, I think. Yes. So we're going to talk about how we got on, what were our highs and lows,
definitely,
and whether there was any major controversies this time.
That's it.
Did anybody's table
I was
fall
about
over?
to say any smashing of tables going on, Dan. But yeah, no, spot on. So how did we do, Dan? How did you do, Dan? You want to start off with you?
Yes, let's start off with me because I did. It was. I think it's fair to say it was a frustrating first day, but I ended up going 2 and 3, which is not what I wanted, but I'll take it.
Yeah, 2 wins, 3 losses, not too bad at all.
I mean, I talked about it in my expectations video that we did last weekend before the tournament, and I think I said if I won 2, I'd be happy. Yeah, but I wasn't happy. But we'll get onto that in a bit. Why?
Definitely.
What about you? How did you do?
Yeah, really good. I went 3 wins, 2 losses for me.
Yeah, and I think we
very respectful.
We need to give you some kudos for that because this is a brand new army for you.
It is.
You basically played a handful of games with this.
Yeah. I played 1.5 games prior to coming to the tournament. So it was a very good result for me. Obviously, I know the rules and such, so it was really just a new army that I was learning, but it was a completely different army from my normal from my Necrons.
For those of you that haven't watched the preview video, go and watch it. But Jack took Imperial Knights, so he's literally just built and painted them over the past few months, played a couple of games, and went straight into a GT with them. Did really well.
Why not? Yeah, why not? Straight in the deep end. And to be fair, we're getting on later, but I learned loads.
Good.
It's one of the best ways I love
massively.
learning.
Massively.
I thought it was really good. And, result-wise, I thought it was quite fair for me. Being, again, not too much into knowing the army in full, walking away with 3 wins, I thought it was a fantastic result for me.
Yeah, definitely. I was robbed. I think I probably should have scored. I probably should have been 3-2. I mean, and all my losses were by a handful of points, barring one where I got absolutely schooled by a guy from Team Scotland, Ryan from Team Scotland. Great player, really good. And I had a good game. I learned a lot from that one, but I was never going to win it. No, but the other ones, all 3 losses were like there were ones.
It was talked out, wasn't it? It wasn't.
One of them was talked out. Yeah, the others were played out. Yeah.
See, it is hard when it comes to when you're in a tournament. No one knows. If you start running out of time, you can then decide whether to basically
you can have hard dice down, which is a tournament rule.
Yeah.
Or it depends on your tournament organizer, but this event it was a hard dice down was the rule.
Yeah.
But what is often considered good sportsmanship is to say, right, well, we'll pull the card still if you're playing tactical secondaries and we'll talk through what do we think we would have scored.
Exactly.
Try and come to a gentleman's agreement.
Exactly. Which can be hard because obviously then it's like, oh well, that unit would take out that unit, and then would you agree? And it's like, yeah, I guess so.
It's a grey area. Yeah. You kind of have to go on sort of average dice rolls and stuff like that.
Correct.
And your opponent not being a dick about it, or you not being a dick about it, I suppose.
Exactly.
But, I mean, interestingly, I looked at the our performance, and we really scored very close across the 5 games.
Oh yeah, what was the scores?
So I scored 393 victory points, and you scored 394 victory points.
I didn't realise that. That's actually, I still won.
Yeah,
I'll take the win.
I mean, I scored 84 in one game and still lost that game. So the challenge for me is not scoring points; it's denying my opponent's points, and that's the challenge.
You do need to focus on that. I think people do get to turn 2. And you've lost a lot of units, and a lot of people kind of give up. They're like, "All right, perfect. I'll just move here and do whatever." But I still try and play it to the end, so I can get as many points as I can.
Points, yeah.
And sometimes it's a case of not to be harsh, but sometimes it's a case of denying your opponent points to be like, right, I'm going to try.
It's a huge part of the game. Yeah.
Especially in a deep GT, because you're there to kind of you're there to have fun. Of course you are. But then if you know you're losing badly, it's like, right, well, I need to restrict this person from losing points, just so that if because again we've got the secret missions in this game now as well.
Yes.
If you're restricting your opponent as much as you can, you might whack out a secret mission.
You're giving yourself a chance. Yeah.
Giving yourself a chance, and I think one of the big players, or one of the ones who were in the team, they used a secret mission to win the game.
No way.
So it comes in handy.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this when we did our video previewing the new mission deck. We said that we had a good feeling about secret missions, that they were going to be achievable and could win your games. So it's nice to see that.
And it's nice to see one of the team players using it and winning. It's like, that gives me hope, because I never heard anyone using the missions last time.
The only person I know who used this gambit was a guy called has a channel called Scaridcast. Ridvan Scary is a big Drukhari player. Go and check out Scaridcast on YouTube. He's brilliant. But he went to a tournament and won a game with a with a gambit, you would be.
foaming.
Yeah, if you were playing him, you'd be absolutely devastated, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then the next event he went to, he did it again.
He won again.
Had 2 events on a bounce and pulled off a gambit twice. Yeah, the man's a genius.
That's crazy. That is crazy good.
But yeah, beyond that, learning about secret missions, what was your biggest learning experience, do you think?
I actually learned a lot.
Did you?
Learned a lot, to be fair, because again, I was playing knights, so
Yeah.
I had a lot of rules to remember.
Yeah.
I actually went in with the mentality of, I'm not going to use any other stratagems other than rotate ion shields.
That's the best one.
So, if anyone doesn't know, knights have an invulnerable save in their shooting.
Yes.
Or against shooting.
Yes.
That's a 5-up, but with rotate, you can spend 1 CP and it goes to 4s.
And that it's particularly if somebody's firing a lot of anti-tank into your big fellas, it's,
It comes in clutch, comes in handy. But what that meant was, by the end of it, I had like 5 CP at the end of every game. Because I just wasn't using it. I didn't need to.
I think you did the right thing though. You kind of streamlined it to give yourself time to learn the basic, like the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And then you can, like, bringing the strats in is like the next tier of play, isn't it?
Yeah, I was really worried for like running out of time or wasting the opponent's time or being like, oh, sorry, would you mind if I just read my book kind of section? So I was a bit cautious of that. And to be fair, most players were super nice, so they would have let me relax and just kind of read it. But I was just in that mentality of like, I'm here to learn. I'm going to go through it.
I think it's a very good discipline to timing yourself. If you don't go to a lot of events, then the timing side of it's really important.
It is. But yes, I mean, learning wise, Vindicare Assassin.
Yes.
Do not buy. Honestly, I just couldn't.
You can't make it work.
Every opportunity that I had. So basically, anyone who doesn't know, Vindicare Assassin is an allied unit that a knight can bring.
Yes.
He has a sniper, which is basically incredible. It's like a D3 plus 3 number of wounds shot.
It's really good character sniper, and it has like a once per game ability where it like just goes awesome, doesn't it?
Correct, exactly. Basically, once per game ability where you basically pop it, and whenever you shoot, can't use any saving throws of any kind is allowed.
Yeah,
and that is incredible.
So they've just took that ability off Thousand Suns that had they've watered it down because Thousand Suns had an ability that they could spend cabal points to do that.
Remove armor saves.
Yeah, just no armor saves at all. So we're talking like no invuls are here either.
Yeah,
but you can still do that with that assassin.
Exactly. So
but it's still not very good.
Well, it's because in 3 out of my 5 games that I played, I was in the perfect position. Literally, game 1, I was like, tell my opponent, I say, look, this little fella, he's really good at shooting.
Yeah.
Watch out for him. He's going to shoot you. And if you no matter where you are, he has a 48-inch range, precision, so he's going to shoot at you. Just make sure you hide your characters. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he puts them out very much in the open at the start. I'm sitting there rubbing my hands, being like, oh, yeah, comes. Oh, actually, so anyone who doesn't know, if I kill the warlord, my knights become honored. So that means I go from a 6-up feel no pain to a 5-up.
That's big.
Pain. That's massive, and that's across the board for my knights. So I was like, right, I need to hunt this guy down. So he had infiltrates. I placed him quite up the board, and I knew if I didn't get turn 1, I was gonna lose him.
Right.
But it was a risk I was happy to take.
It's a gamble, yeah.
Exactly, to basically get in the right position to take him out. So anyways, turn 1 comes around, I'll get it. I'm sitting there like, oh, here we go. This is perfect. So I move my guy up in the right position. You can see him. It's a warlord. He's only like a tech marine, so he wasn't tough. He wasn't strong.
Very, very killable, yeah.
Exactly. So I was like, here it comes. An easy game for me going forward. I've got loads of save coming up. Anyways, I shoot. It hits on 2s. Roll the 1. I was like, here we go. Here we go.
Reroll?
CP reroll, of course. So I was like,
I think I know what's coming here.
Oh, yeah. Straight into another 1. I was so mad. So upset. But that wasn't it. That happened 3 games out of 5.
Give over.
3 games out of 5. I used 1 CP to reroll 1 into a 1.
No.
I was laughing. It was the 4th game I played with John. Great player. He was playing I think he was playing Space Marines again. And again, I was like, look, this guy, he claps, he does good, yada yada. Moved him up. I'm like, mate, you're going to see this number 1. You're going to see it twice. Watch. Rolled 1. It's like, here we go, mate. Flip the CP away. Rolled 1. And I'm sitting there, I'm howling. I'm like, mate, I'm no matter, even if this guy gets a buff, I'm never playing him again.
He's never coming again.
Nah.
Obviously, it's the dice rather than the model, but we've talked about this before. Sometimes a model just seems to get a cloud of bad luck attached to them, and you can't shift it, can you?
Can't shake it.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say it was like new model syndrome.
Yes.
But my entire army was new models.
Syndrome, yeah.
So I just couldn't help it. So basically, I'm never playing him again, and that's my learning experience. I'm taking away.
Class.
Yeah. Well, one for you.
I think slightly more controversial one was probably, and you nearly slapped me for this one, but it was basically saying no more Mr. Nice Guys. I'm perhaps this is probably the only time I would ever say this, but perhaps I was being too nice. Normally I'm an absolute bastard, so it doesn't happen. But we had a game where we'd used a chess clock and we both timed out, and I was winning by
But
one.
that wasn't your chess clock. Just for clarity.
The opponent has to bring it, and we both timed out. So it wasn't just one of us had timed out. So then we reached the end of the game, hard dice down. I was winning by a point, and I kind of got talked into talking through it as we discussed earlier. We'll see what cards you control, but a lot of your point scoring ability is dictated by what units you've got left on the board.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, I've got this firepower here will eliminate, or this melee threat will eliminate these units.
Yeah,
and my opponent's like, no, it won't. I'm like, well, it will. And in the end, I just thought, do you know what? I'm not that competitive. If you want the win that bad that you're going to argue like silly things like this, you can just have the win. So he ended up, he won by a handful of points, and on reflection, I probably should have just said, well, if we can't agree on this, we'll have to default to hard dice down.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because like you both want to have a good game, but obviously at the end of the day, you both want to have a good score.
Yeah.
So when you use a chess clock, I guess the mentality, I guess, again, I've never played with an opponent who wanted to use a chess clock, but in my mind, it's like, if you're bringing a chess clock, you both time out, you should just both stop at the next round.
Yeah.
Like, again, I don't know how it properly works, or people may, again, I guess it does depend on the player, so everyone will have.
I mean, the guy had like 6 minutes left, and he's like, right, well, I'm just going to try and use my 6 minutes. Well, I said, well, you can't score on your points in that time. You just physically is not enough time. I've got 4 or 5 minutes left. So, there is not enough time for either of us to play around.
Yeah.
So it's either hard dice down, or you talk through whatever.
That makes sense.
And if you're losing the game and your opponent offers you the opportunity to talk through, my view would be that you should probably give them a little bit more leeway than because otherwise the default is, if you argue with me again and it's hard dice down and I'm winning, the default is always going to be, well, it's hard dice down. If you can't come to a reasonable agreement, you shouldn't use it to chisel your opponent and say, well, I'm winning this, so therefore everything's dead, and you can't.
You talk about it as well, like sometimes those 6 minutes where it's like, oh, well, we've got 6 minutes left.
Yeah,
let's talk it through. Then you start talking it through. You might hit a point like you did there.
Yeah.
And then maybe one of the options could be, oh, I'll tell you what, if you think differently against me, have we got time? Right, we've got 2 minutes. Let's roll. Let's roll this that one
out. Yes.
Just roll this one out real fast.
Yeah.
And then the other ones might just flow naturally.
Yeah.
That'll get destroyed. That'll get removed. So, there's lots of different ways.
The sticking point was Lilith Hesperax, who is brilliant into infantry. She's an absolute blender. And the turn before, she'd picked up a unit of 10 of this infantry. Yeah. And she was about to go in. I had some shooting to go into them, and then she was going to go into this other, the same unit. Right. And he was like, well, I don't think she can kill them. And I'm like, but there's going to be some shooting first and then her. And she's already done this in the previous turn. Well, I don't think she can do it. It's like, okay.
And the thing is, and sometimes he's right, though, because sometimes the dice do give and take.
On a talk through, my view is you have to go on average dice rolls. You can't say, well, I would have spiked my rolls here and killed everything, or I would have spiked my rolls here and saved everything. You have to go on the averages.
Maybe that comes down to your knowledge around your unit. Yeah. You knew what they were capable of, whereas they did.
I would agree to that and give my opponent the benefit of the doubt if Lilith hadn't done that to exactly the same unit. Right, and he had 2 of these units. And she'd just done it the turn before. Got you. So that was as controversial as it got, though. For anyone that hasn't been watching for a long time, at the last year's Northeast Open, my table fell over, like literally the legs collapsed. The guy
were you tempted? Were you just were you feeling
feeling for the? Tell you what I did do is checked all the legs before every game. Checked the table legs before.
It's not a bad shout. To be fair, you're paying your models. You want them safe.
Yeah. But the other big takeaway from me was that Necron's still incredibly strong. So we think we both played Necrons at different times in this tournament, and different players, and it was really interesting to see it from the other side of the table, wasn't it? It
was. For me, it was the lethals we talked about before, but they had like a Chronomancer or whatever.
Oh, the Plasmancer giving them lethals on 5s.
Exactly. So they had lots of Immortals coming at me with lethals on 5s, and they just tore through my little 1/8. Went from literally squad of I think it was only 10. And went straight and I think they had another character in there that gave them -1 AP as well, something along those lines. 2 different units.
Luminor Zeras gives an aura of -1 AP.
He had him, and that was just scary. Basically, that just tore through one of my knights, destroyed one of my little knights straight away, and I was like, I forget. Necrons are pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. So so that was scary to verse, but it was good.
Yeah, really, it was really interesting for me to see how the guy I played Canoptic Court, but he only had 1 unit of Wraiths. And the way he used the other units in his list was really intriguing. I might give a version of his list to try just to run out, because it was a different way to playing that I would normally do.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about these events, when you play against someone that has a faction that you play but plays it in a completely different way.
Yeah.
It was really good.
It's nice. It is good. I think another thing for me I was going to say as well, real fast, on the back of just being absolutely clapped by Lethals.
Yes.
Lionel Johnson. I completely forgot that. I don't know if anyone else knows, but maybe people do know, but Lionel Johnson, since he's a Primarch, he can walk through buildings.
That's a recent
It
rules
is a
change,
recent
isn't
change,
it?
yes. And I completely forgot about it. So there's me. I was like, where's the line? He goes, behind the building. I was like, all right, okay, we've got to go round. So I was like, perfect. We were big night up. I was like, turn one, I'm coming towards you, shot all my shots. I was like, get in. What are you going to do? He just picks them up and moves them through the building. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, they can move through buildings. And it just clicked. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm like, no way.
I think, I would... You can't really blame your opponents.
No.
It would have, given it's a recent rules change, it would have been good if your opponent reminded you.
Not even that though, because it's not even like a gotcha moment. It's like most units can walk through buildings.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'm not having a dig at your opponent, but I just think if it's a recent rules change, remind your opponent if you can remember.
I mean, I could have asked as well. Because again, the positioning of where you put him was a bit strange.
I love those moments are quite funny as well, like moments of sheer terror when you're like, oh no,
I've misplayed.
Yeah,
he just walked into him, just took down
that
the
little TikTok. Oh no.
Pretty much. So that was a very big misplay on my part. But hey,
you live and learn, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah. So Primarchs can go through, but they can't charge through terrain though. They've got to move through it, so they can't charge apparently.
That is interesting.
So I could have definitely hid a different way and then looked through it.
Classic GW nuance in rule writing there, isn't it? Or some would say complexity in rule writing. You can walk through a bit of war, but can't charge through it.
Yeah. Don't know why.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
You're still going through it regardless. So I think they're my biggest kind of learning experiences.
So I mean,
fear the line.
It's fair to say we both learned a lot from that, and largely positive stuff, you know.
Oh yeah,
and it's all of those experiences are good learning experiences.
Definitely. I'll move on.
Yeah,
I would love as well. People at home, how do everyone else end their games? Time runs out. What do you do? Hard dice down? Do you stop it?
Oh yeah,
Do you stop at a junction? Like, do you stop at like the end of turn 3 or turn 4? Do you roll it out? Do you talk it through? How do you decide on if two people disagree? Because there's not in my eyes, there's not a perfect way about it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's definitely open to interpretation, isn't it?
It certainly is, and especially if there's like the game hasn't ended and you've got like 10 minutes left. Do you want to talk it out? What if someone doesn't want to talk it out because they're winning? Yeah. How do you sort that out?
Yeah,
it's a big topic, to be fair.
It is. There's a lot to talk about there.
Mm-hmm. But let us know how you feel, because I think there'll be probably people playing at different levels. 1K tournaments, 2K tournaments, GTs.
And you've got you've got your local gaming store tournaments or your club tournaments. You've got your RTTs and your GTs, and it'll vary across. From one GT to the next, it'll vary.
So let us know in the comments, because it'll be really interesting to see how you guys do it. But moving on, favorite game, Dan, what's yours?
Yes. Now, I mean, this was difficult for me because I had 4 really close games. As I said, I think my favourite was probably Jamie from the Student Union. There's he was playing the Ironstorm Spearhead Space Marines. You played him in game 1.
I did.
There's a little story behind this, right? So he was there. So the event took place in the Student Union, which is it's basically like an area for use by the students within the university, for those that don't know. Apologies if I'm being patronising there, but just in case. And so obviously, because we're on the university's grounds, there is a representative from the university employee there to kind of keep an eye on things and to make sure it runs smoothly and help out, etc. So this guy, by sheer luck, he actually runs the university's Warhammer club. So he has an interest in Warhammer. And what happened was there was a guy there. He's quite well known. He's called Ed Watts, who plays. I think he was playing Blood Angels here, but he's from 6 Plus Gaming, who are another YouTube channel. If we were to describe ourselves as casual competitive, they're competitive. Like, these guys really
good players.
Yeah, they know good players know what they're talking about. So go and check the channel out. And Ed, I think you said he came down with an illness.
He did, yeah. So he had to skip the game. He had to skip the tournament.
Basically,
so I hope he's good.
Yeah. I hope you're feeling better now, Ed. And as it transpired, we would have both ended up playing you, perhaps. So at least one of us.
I dodged a bullet. If I'm
honest.
He's a very good player, with a very good list. So when I seen it, I was like, I've heard they're good. good. And I've heard his name before. So
Blood Angels are quite high in the meta, and he's
just a generally good player.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I missed a bullet.
Yeah.
So very good.
And we've talked about this in the past as well, but luck of the draw is massive in tournaments against like things like this just happen, and So so this guy Jamie from the student union, there was Ed dropped out, so the organizer of the tournament Ricky was like, I've got a player to fill in here. So he's like, do you know anything about Warhammer?
Sound guy, get up here.
so basically the sound guy, he bless him, he found out he was playing on Friday morning, and he stayed up all night Friday night painting his models.
He didn't have his main unit either. He says, he was out. They were in a different building or whatever. Place, so he was like, I had to make a list with what I had.
Yeah, so it wasn't an optimized list, but he was a good player.
Oh, really good player.
And so day one he had no sleep and turned up and played 3 games, and then I played him on day 2.
But I felt really bad though as well, because when I played him, we were already like 20 minutes late in the game.
Right, yeah.
But you have to remember, he was doing the sound thing for the entire event. So he kept on, like when he was playing, kept on looking behind him to be like, is everything still working?
Yeah, checking the sound and lighting. Ricky came over, who's the organizer, Ricky Lowe, came over in the middle of our game. He's like, I'm sorry, Dan. I'm just going to stop you there. He's like, Jamie, I need to borrow you for 5 minutes.
As well, yeah.
Just like, okay.
So like, I mean, again, like props to him for playing the game and also doing his job.
He did a great job.
Yeah,
he's a really nice lad, and he lives not a million miles away from my mum and a couple of his sisters in North Yorkshire, so we had a bit of chat about that as well.
Good.
But honestly, he had a very good, he's not a bad player, and I think if he'd had like an optimized list, like being able to bring the units he wanted to bring, I think he would have beat us. It was a close game, but really good fun. What about you?
Nice. For me, it was my 5th game actually. I lost this game. It was against a Drakari player. Wasn't yourself? I know, different Drakari player. So I lost this game. It was 90 points to 54. So I got beat hard, but the reason why it's my favorite game for was because I just learned everything I'd learned from the last 4 games. I'd implemented in this game. So I moved in the right position. I was using all my abilities in the right order. I was in the right spot. I was avoiding his dark lances, but then also getting the jump on his units. Because obviously with Drakari, as you well know, you can jump out, shoot your weapons, and get back in vehicles.
Yes.
So I had that in mind whenever I move I'd done. I was like, right, if I move here, I'm going to get the shots off, but I know for a fact they're going to move away and come back. And also, I now learn as well, at the end of your fight phase, you can then jump back into vehicles as well for an extra CP or whatever.
Yes.
So I learned that because I was like, right, I need to destroy these, otherwise they're going to get back in the vehicle, which means my overshooting are going to be harder to get at them.
Totally.
I knew this was happening, so I just think I applied everything I learned over the last 4 games into this game, and again didn't win, and that's just because the player I was versing was he's just a good player. He was just a very good guy. He moved exactly where he needed to move. He was able to get onto the objectives at the right time. Unfortunately, my secondaries did not come in handy, but his secondaries weren't like given to him. He started to work for them because of my placement, but he had the units to get there.
We are good. Dark Eldar are good at still good at the secondary game. It's taken me a while to get used to how the secondary game has changed because the deck's different.
Yes,
it was easy. I had it sussed for the Leviathan deck.
Yes,
and it's different for this one, but we still can score secondaries quite well. And his list was better than mine, and he's a better player than me, but I'm going to look at, again, similar as I just talked about with the Necrons, I'm going to look at running a similar list to him to see how it works. I've got the models. But there's and I think the 5th game always has just that kind of feeling like you've got, not that you've got through it like it's a terrible thing, but it's just got a different vibe the 5th game, hasn't it? It's
kind of like you're in the 5th game, especially with the tables where we place. So we don't really place like that.
Unless you're on the top tables, then it's obviously high stakes, isn't it?
Exactly. But like, 5th game, you know where you're sitting, you're not going to, you know which bracket you're in as well, to a degree. And it's like, well, cool, like I'm here, I've got nothing more to play for, I know where I'm sitting. And if you're not going to be on the top tables, then you just play to have fun.
You were in a nice, enviable position because you'd already got 3 wins under your belt.
So I think at that point I was like 18 for something like that, out of 104. So I was like, oh, good. I was over the moon. I was like, this is great. So I'd already got as far as I wanted to. And then I was like, I said to you guys, I was like, I would love 2 wins, 3 losses. That was what I was going in for. So by that point, I'd already had 3 wins.
Yeah, you were
so I was like, great. I was like, I literally don't care.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, I'm just going to apply everything I've learned to this game, see how it goes. And it went really well. Again, the secondaries weren't in the right place, but I now know that it's the Vindicare that sucks balls. Never bring the Vindicare Assassin. Absolutely not.
And I think sometimes when you take the pressure off yourself in those games, you actually play better as well.
Yeah.
Because it gives you're not putting yourself under pressure to do well. You're like, oh, I need to win this. I need to do this. And it just gives you time to like you say, take maybe it's half a step back and just think about how to play the game a bit better.
It's true. Something that it happens all the time, but whenever I lose to opponents, I don't know what it is, it's a common theme for me, but if they pre-measure, my brain's like, oh, I've lost. If they're pre-measuring,
you see them getting the tape out, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm like, because I know they're a good player. It's fine to do.
I started doing it towards the end of the tournament just to psych play. I don't
don't do that to me. You'll psych us out. I'll lose. But anyone who pre-measures against me, I just automatically lose.
Yeah.
Like my brain's like, I think my brain starts working overtime, and it's like, oh, this guy.
I started pre-measuring because one of my units, I've been misplaying it. I found out that the Raider, which is one of the Jakari transports, has an auto advance of 6.
Oh,
so
sick.
all of a sudden you can now, and some of those terrain layouts, you can terrain hop much easier.
Yes.
So my positioning and measure, so I'm measuring, thinking, right, well, can it definitely get from where it is to behind that next piece of terrain with an auto advance of 6, and so I can stage it because it's full of very angry choppy boys.
You want to come out and just absolutely because they get lance on the charge, so don't
you?
See, I'm learning Jakari. I'm getting there. I'm learning your tricks.
I'm screwed next time. So that was. Really good. I mean, I could have picked any. The only other game that was close second was a very final game as well, simply because it was really chill, and I played a really lovely guy who had some beautiful tyranids, like they were in the armies on parade type of painting competition. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but he was an absolute mad lad. He brought an enormous tyrannid.
Yeah.
What about clutch moments? Was there any? We already talked a bit about the never-ending ones with your assassin.
Oh god!
But was there any other clutch moments?
Yeah. So for me, really, there was a Necron game that I played against because he got. I think I got turn 1, so I moved up, and again I was being reserved to a degree. I was trying to keep out of the distance, but I knew that he could, pull stuff off and move them back in and such with the hypercrypt. So I was a bit like, oh goodness, like, there's gonna be a bit. Oh no, so he was playing the Canoptic one. Sorry. So I was like still a bit like he's gonna control the middle board. I'm going to be a bit screwed.
Yes.
That's where I am. And he did. He had his wraiths that zoomed up the board. But what happened basically for me, my clutch moment, was his Void Dragon was approaching. And I knew as soon as the Void Dragon got into my line, that was it really.
Anti-vehicle,
we talked about it before.
We've just made a video about about the Void Dragons. Go and check it out.
Yes, it'll make more sense. But basically, this guy destroys vehicles. And I knew as soon as he starts destroying my big ones and my little ones, that was game over. Really. Yeah. Now, he moved them up in the right position. He got the shots off, perfect shots, anti-vehicles, so it was 2s and 2s, and I knocked my wounds down it was my big knight from like 22 all the way down to like 10. Oof. I was like, oh my god. I was like, geez Louise.
Yeah.
And then he moved into the range, the charge range, and he got the charge off. Unfortunately, he didn't make as many attacks as he thought he was going to make.
Right.
And I luckily rolled my 6s on my save.
Right.
So I literally finished with 1 wound left.
Wow.
And that was with my feeling the pain that I had.
Right.
And I was like, if I didn't save that big knight, I wasn't going to take this Void Dragon down. So I took about I think by that point I took maybe 5 wounds off him. So I think he was sitting on about 6 or 7.
Right. Yeah.
And then basically the next turn comes around. Obviously I'm staying still. I'm in combat. So I'm hitting on 4s below things. I'm hitting on 4s. And I just managed to sheer number. It wasn't like big hits getting through. It was literally just the Gatling cannon, thermal cannon, rocket pod, everything.
I mean, we talked about this again. So even though he's toughness 12, if you're firing something that is more higher than strength 6, you're wounding on 5s. You just need the volume of shots.
Yeah, and I had sustain because I stayed still.
Oh yeah.
So I had sustain. So I need to get through as many as I can. And luckily I did. Obviously, he half damaged, but my Gatling cannons go from damage 2 to damage 1.
Yeah,
I didn't care. I was like, right, I just need sheer number through.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I actually pulled back my units because I had some of them moving up the field, and I was like, you know what? If I don't get rid of this unit,
he's just going to march through.
He's just going to destroy it. Yeah. So I actually pulled a few of my units back just to make sure that I had the
for
right
knights.
angles.
He's probably one of the units that you can't, you have to eliminate. Don't you?
Yeah.
Because he will eat you.
100%. So I took him out, and once I did, it kind of that's where it started to fall. I felt really bad as well because he had the monolith at one point, and he managed to deep strike it on my home marker.
All right.
Perfect position from him.
Yeah.
And he pulled these immortals to it. And I was like, mate, the Mauls are really good. I was like, they just took out one of my little knights. Do you want to hide them back there? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm going to hold your backline objective. And
right.
I was like, yeah, great. His monolith shot all of his shots, like the particle, the Doomsday one, in my big knight, and it just didn't do any damage. And I felt bad because I was like, well, hold on a minute. I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that unit's really good. It's got very high strength and toughness. So he was like hitting on freeze, wounding on freeze, and just didn't get any of them
just
through.
whiffed.
And then I think he got like 2 through out of like canny few shots, and unfortunately, I turned around with a volcano lance.
Obliterated it.
I know the monolith doesn't have any invuln save, so I knew you have no save against it. So I was just like, that boy is just going to turn. He should be gone by now, but he's not. So he's going to turn around, and make you go away.
Yeah.
So it was unfortunate.
Pivotal moments.
Yes, it was a big game. But yes, that was my kind of clutch. What about you then?
Game 4 was against Chaos Knights, and that went horribly wrong in turn 4. Actually, sorry, it was game 3, but turn 4 went horribly wrong. So I was playing. I'd played perfectly, and I think I just got maybe slightly cocky. Ooh. So he only had about 4 little war dogs left. I'd eliminated his big knight, took out half his war dogs.
Nice.
I've got a bunch of pain tokens, which for Chikari are important because they give us rerolls to hit, which is particularly good on
wounds.
For shooting, it's just rerolls to hit. If you've got an Archon leading unit, you get rerolls to wounds as well. Perfect. But it's important for shooting when you've got bunches of Dark Lances or Haywire because they can be quite swingy. You know, anything that's one shot, anti-tank can be swingy.
Exactly.
So the rerolls to hit can really help. So I'm looking really good. I've got loads of anti-tank guns pointed at 3 of his war dogs that I can see, and they're all wounded. They're all on about half wounds as it is.
Nice.
So I should be picking up, with all those re-rolls, I should be picking up 2, probably 3.
Nice.
And then it's game over.
Yeah.
I didn't kill any.
Oh, no.
Just rolled loads of 1s and 2s, loads of 1s and 2s, and then he just clapped. The same thing as you were just talking about.
Yeah.
He just clapped back. And then and I was winning the game by about 10 or 15 points at that point, and the clapback was so bad that he won.
That's it. It happens. Literally one turn. Like, again, it's very similar. You put all your shots, put all your A's in one basket, and it messes up. It's kind of like...
Interestingly, our friend Dan was playing Chaos Demons. He was on the table behind me, and his game had finished. So he was watching my last 2 turns and watched this game completely unravel. And I was like, "Did you see that?" I said, "It's not just me being salty about the dice, is it?" And he's like, "No, I don't think you could have done much difference."
Yeah, it's like
sometimes it just happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You played exactly how you needed to, and the dice just take away.
Yeah, sometimes. So it was a really that was also a very fun game, and it was close. But for
it's
him,
crazy to go from like a 15 point lead to losing.
I think that was the game I scored 84 and he won 90, but he scored just over 90 or something. Yeah. So it's still quite close, but it was like you were just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But
it's tough.
The dice tell a story sometimes, and you can't really argue with it.
No. Good.
What about your MVP? Did you have an MVP? I mean, it's difficult nights because you haven't got. They all have to be MVPs or you lose, don't you?
Exactly. They've all got to do something. If they don't, I've lost. Again, no MVP for me, really. Everyone shot. Exactly what I need to shoot.
Good.
Again, just don't bring the Vindicare Assassin.
Yeah, the Vindicare. Yeah,
the theme I'm going with. Yeah, don't bring him. But no. What about you?
I just have an image of the Vindicare Assassin of that, like it's like that meme of the Olympics where they're like they're giving themselves like all the medals and stuff on the podium and that. And they've actually done nothing.
It's like, we won, guys. Team effort.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Running around high-fiving all the nights. For me, it was a couple of them. It was difficult to choose. Lilith Hesperax, I think. She is an absolute blender, particularly against infantry. But I mean, she will kill almost anything. But she has fight first for a start.
Yeah.
She has 8 attacks. Once per game, you can power up to 12 attacks. She's hitting on 2s, and she's got anti-infantry 2+. So she's
nice.
She will pick up a unit of 10 of most infantry. I'm not like obviously like Terminator stuff, but 1 wound infantry. She will pick up a unit of 10 by herself.
Yeah.
Because she is. If you're giving her a pain token for re-rolls, she's also got sustained hits too. So you can fish for 6s on re-rolls.
Nice.
And you're hitting on 2s anyway.
Yeah.
So you can turn 8 attacks into 12 very easily.
Yeah.
And then wounding on 2s. AP wise, she's AP2 with a pain token, she's AP3, and if she's leading witch, she's AP4. So if you ain't got
big.
an invuln, so you can get up to AP4 against a power armor. Sure. They're not getting a save.
Yeah, I mean even with knights, that's taking me to none. Actually, AP4, that's none.
You would get no save.
That's horrible.
Yes,
that's horrible.
And if she's charged out of vehicle, she's getting lance, so she's wounding knights on 5s.
Fives.
So almost by herself, she was.
She gets the rerolls to wounds, you see, or
no? but she's still, she can still do volume of attack. She can do some serious damage. The other one was 10 Incubi with an Archon, and they will delete almost anything they hit. So in previous games, I've been running the Incubi split into 2 units of 5, and I decided to whack them all in the Raider and in a unit of 10 with an Archon. The Archon's got a no Overwatch enhancement called the Nightmare Shroud, which is a great name.
Fancy.
So they can hop out of vehicle. You can't Overwatch them. They can charge you and they'll kill you, and then you get back in the vehicle again.
Nice.
So they again, Archon gives them full rerolls to hit and wound.
Right.
So they are with Lance, they were wounding infantry on 3s and 4s, and they're wounding vehicles on 5s and 6s.
Nice.
With full rerolls, they can, and it's damage too. So they can put the hurt on.
Yeah.
I mean, they walk through Chaos Knights. So they. I've actually got another 15 of them, so I'm gonna cook up a list with 2 Raiders and 2 sets of 10. Obviously you can only have 1 unit with the no Overwatch enhancement, but if you stage them right, so they're behind a vehicle before they charge, behind a building, they can't get Overwatch anyway, can they?
Nah,
so I'm going to give that a run just to see what it's like, but I think that could be absolute filth.
That'll be good. That sounds disgusting. You've been on Reddit. You've been looking over stuff.
No, I mean, I don't. I haven't. There's been some talk about people running double units, but generally speaking, they're not. They're running. There's lots of other weird and wonderful combos of running which I haven't tried yet.
Right,
there's quite a lot of depth to Drukhari at the moment.
What's the squad list like? What's the size of it? Like 10.
You can run 5s or 10s. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So you can. But I think the 10
squad.
The 10s are just They will. 5 will delete a lot of things, but 10 will delete anything. Pretty much anything.
Very nice.
So yeah, those were my MVPs.
Good.
What about in terms of this is one of our favourite events because we usually have a good time there. What was the overall vibe like for you?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Again, really good vibe. Again, Ricky always does a really good event.
Yeah.
The VT, again, we were there last year. Give massive praise to it.
Yeah.
Again, this year it was a really good event.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it. Everyone had a really good time. Everyone basically just cracked on, and then everyone was there to have fun, which was good.
Yeah.
Thought he's brought in a very handsome selection of people.
Yes, there was definitely there was a good bunch. I think it was slightly more competitive this year, but that didn't.
Good list, to be fair, this year, have to agree.
That didn't make it a different vibe. It still was a good vibe.
Yeah, I wasn't directly impacted by it. Again, it comes to the look of the draw as well. Though,
of course it does, yeah.
You could have went there and you got paired with the best every single time, and it could have been bad for you. But for me, it turned out really good. And for people I spoke to, again, it's like you always get the vibe near the end of the tournament. Game 1, 2, and 3, you kind of playing to learn your rules, learn the vibe. Maybe it's the first tournament in a while. You kind of get used to it.
There's a bit more kind of like focus on the table. Yeah,
but game 4 and 5 is kind of where
those are the favourites.
Yeah, they're my favourites just because by game 4, how was the event? You enjoyed the last few games? How are your games been? It's like you got that more to talk about, really, isn't there?
You're more relaxed because you're more confident in your list and in the actual game because you've played it. You've just played 3 games. But definitely, overall was a really nice vibe. What about our favourite opponents? Did you have a favourite opponent?
Yes. What was his name? John, I think it was.
The Black Templars player?
Black Templars player,
right.
Yeah. He was just so educational for me. He literally said to himself, he says his brother play, and his brother says, he goes, you need to stop telling people what they can and can't do.
You tell me that to stop doing that all the time as well. Yeah,
well, that's it. I was laughing at him. I was like, oh man, I typically like turn 1, turn 2. I'm like, this is what this guy does. This is what this guy does. But he was like, he goes, I just do it throughout the entire game. And I'm laughing. I'm like, no, mate. I'm like, I appreciate it, but feel free to stop talking. Like, just sit down, have a drink. It don't care. I was like, look, if you've got something to say, I would love to know it at the end. I was like, I learn much more by you kicking my ass than I would for you just telling me what the guys do.
True.
But turn 1, turn 2 told me a few little things, and then from there we did kind of not tell each other. But it was the reason why he was probably my favorite opponent for was because at the end when we stopped playing, he didn't have to do this, but he left. He went to go speak to his brother. He had, but then the topic came about the game that he just played with Knights, and his brother, I think, plays Knights or knows Knights, and he goes, oh, well, you do know when you place Titanic units down, the opponent has to put down 2 units.
Right,
So during the deployment
I didn't know
stage,
that.
not a Scooby. So he comes up and he goes, you do know you've missed a few more rules, don't you?
Right.
And I was like laughing. It's like, oh, what now? And I was like, I haven't cheated, have I? And he goes, no. He goes, you've just there's something better for you.
Nice.
So so basically every time a Titanic unit gets placed down, the opponent has to place down 2 other units.
So you told us after that game, and I played, as I said, my last opponent was Tunic, and he had a massive Titan Bio-Titan. So I used that. So I'm like, oh, I have to place down 2 units now. But it's
not a Scooby. No. And it was just nice for him to come up even after the end, because again, it has no impact on him, but he was like, by the way, keep an eye on this. Make your opponent place down 2, and that's what I did in my turn. That's why I like game 5, because I was like, place them down. I was like, 2 units, please. And even he was like, what? And I'm like, mate, I've just learned it. I was like, but here's the rule. It's in your deploy stage.
But for knights, it's massive. I can see why they do it, because it then alters where you have to place your dogs. If you start placing your 2 big boys in your list, your opponent's going to put 4 units down.
Yeah.
It can, a wily opponent's obviously still going to keep the good stuff to the end, but it's going to make life easier for you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's really interesting.
And then he also told me about my sustained on my charges for the Warglaives. Warglaives get sustained on the charge. I had no idea. Yeah. This was game 4, so I'd already played 3 games. So he was like,
played and won 3 games.
Yeah. So I think you roll 4 dice. I got 3 6s. And I was like, great. And he goes, that's 3 extra dice. I was like, wait, no, it's not. He goes, it is. And it makes so much more. It's so much better as well, because I get the reroll to my hit roll. I get to reroll one dice per a unit. So that makes the difference.
Per unit per phase. So you can reroll. You're getting sustained, and you're getting reroll 1 hit roll anyway as well. It's nice.
So it's really handsome.
Good.
So that was my favorite opponent. What about you?
Mine was Rick, as I mentioned, who had some beautifully painted Tyranids, and that included a Hierophant Bio Titan, which is enormous. And on the terrain layouts, he's like, he'd already played 4 games, and he's like, hey, I'm not sure how. I can't really get it around the board. And I just went, mate, it's game 5. You just move it where you want.
You're not going.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I said, what we ended up doing, because he still didn't want to be moving it all over the place. I was like, look, let's just assume it's got line of sight to everything, because otherwise it wasn't going to get involved in the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so powerful it could point at something and delete it. But that's what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel I wanted it to be involved, and also then it becomes a challenge for me. Like, right, well, I can't hide from that, so it's going to kill me if I come out and do something, and he realizes I'm a threat. I'll be deleted next turn. So you have to spend, you have to spend your units a bit more wisely.
It's good.
So it was a close game. It was very chilled out, and he had a very fun
model as well.
Yeah, it was beautiful. He's a mad lad, but I'm going to try and get him down to our local club at the Wildlings, because he lives in the next town up, but his club, there's not much going on up there, so he's going to hopefully come and roll some dice 40k down there.
I think we were trying to talk to him as well about like how we're like, does it come with a base?
Yeah,
and he's like, oh no, and I was like, well, if it comes with a base, or if you just stick on a base, then you can pivot. With the new rules, you can pivot easily and get through stuff.
Well, they've just changed the pivot rule again.
They have, haven't they? Yes. So a few units now have like Dracaria have suffered from it,
basically they fixed it. So again, we did a video when this happened, but there was a rule open to abuse where anything on a rounder base, which included like those round flight stands, could pivot for free. So something like a giant Titan, you could put it on sideways and then pivot and get like 8 inches of extra movement. Which was pretty funny. I think we enjoyed that, and we talked a little bit about learning experiences earlier on. But what about, one of the things that we always talk about after a tournament is lists. Would you change your list?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if everyone's noticed or anything like that, but I don't like the Vindicare Assassin. It's probably news to a lot of you.
You should have mentioned it earlier. Yeah,
I know. I should have. Really should have a whole topic about it. But I'm getting rid of Vindicare. I was literally, again. It was the game of John about the Black Templars, and he was just like, well, why aren't you bringing the what's it called again?
Is it the Calidus?
Calidus Assassin, that's it. And because he had it. Right. And he goes, why aren't you bringing this one? I was like, honestly, I just like the idea of trying to destroy your warlord. And he goes, yeah, but watch what it can do. And then in the game, he was just like, right, pick it up, move over here. Pick it up, move over here. And he has the lone operative, so
it's got lone op, it's got the uppy downy, so you could great for secondaries. Yep. I think, is it also the one that's got they've changed this now, but it's the ability that we colloquially call the Vect, where it can add +1 CP.
I have to double check.
Yeah. I think it's got the Vect. So this used to be an ability where once per game you played a battle tactic stratagem, and I could say that now costs you one more CP.
It does have that, yes.
But
it does have
now
that.
it's an aura. So if you play any strat within the aura of that assassin,
I have to double check if it's an aura or if it's just literally that now is 2 CP, whatever. I'll
it's an aura now, but it's very powerful.
It's very, regardless of that, it's a class model. But
it is. I think you were right to try the Vindicare first because of the Warlord, killing the opponent's Warlord. The buff it gives you is massive.
I thought it was going to be really good, but as soon as the opponent knows that, because again, I tell them, I'm not going to hide it. I told them every game, and as soon as I told them that, they were like, right, he's in a Rhino. I was like, understandable. Absolutely understandable.
It's definitely worth trying the Calidus, I think, to see how that works.
I think it's just better because obviously with Knights, a lot of Knights players out there, we don't have a lot of models to do secondaries. So having that assassin able to come off the board and then go do like sabotage or behind enemy lines or engage,
just even if you're getting like what we call like the mini scores. So for some of those ones where you need 2 units to do something, even if you can get something with 1 unit, because Knights typically play the primary game really well, don't you?
They do. because they just move the board and
Yeah.
they're there. So having that again, the assassin just out there to do the secondaries for me, it'll make it a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely.
So definitely on my wish
Good.
list.
Well, that'll be interesting. I look forward to playing against that one.
What about yourself? Any changes to your list?
Yeah, I think I might play a couple more games as is, but I had it's not an optimized list. I have, for example, I have 2 Talos in there, which they're like kind of mid strength monsters, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they can hit quite hard, but they do very little. They're mainly distraction kind of effects, and they can only move 7. And now with the new pivot rule changing, they're on a round flight base, so their move will be 5 unless they're moving in a straight line.
Oh, okay.
Because they'll have to pay 2 inches to pivot.
Got you.
And it's just they were slow already, and that's just going to make them too slow. So I could take those out and get another 5 incubi and a venom in. So that might be worth exploring. But yeah, other than that, and there's other lists I really want to try. I think there was 2 of the Dark Eldar players there.
There was.
So I'd like to try both their lists just to see if I can get a feel for what they would do.
I definitely recommend checking out the one after. He's from Ireland. Very good
He was
player.
from Team Island, wasn't he?
Team Island, yes. Yeah. But yeah, good list. Definitely try that.
So yeah, it's I basically took. I'm not going to say it was a fluffy list because it wasn't, but it wasn't the most optimized list that you could take for Dark Eldar. So there's work to be done on it.
Getting your excuses now, are you?
Yeah,
Just be like, I lost, but it's because it was, it was not.
But no, I mean, I enjoyed. I really enjoyed the tournament. Learned a lot about Drukhari and how to use them, and a lot about like the wider game. And you also pick up more about what other factions can do, because there's some factions there. Like I think that Ironstorm that I played against, I've only played against them. In fact, I don't think I've ever played against the Ironstorm Spearhead detachment for Space Marines. So stuff like that's great.
Nice.
So
Good.
yeah, overall, fantastic event. Well done to the organisers again.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to next year's already.
Yeah,
we might
start
have to.
planning it.
Yeah, might have to get Ricky back.
Predictions 4-1.
Yes, yes. Yeah, 3.
5-0 for me, 4-1 for you.
Yeah, no, I'll take a 3-2 next time. But we'll see. But yeah, there's
a whole year to practice, Dan. Whole year.
Yes. Well, I might have actually mastered Drukhari by then.
Or a third army. Who knows?
Ooh.
It's spicy. But no, yes. Thanks again, Ricky, for organising the event. It's been absolutely lovely.
Yeah, and let us know if you went to the event or you've been to something similar. Let us know in the comments if we missed anything. And thank you as always for watching, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you.